and welcome to Martechify. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. As we join Martechify today, we are broadcasting coast to coast and across the ocean, and so we are very excited to see you. Welcome, and we'd love to hear where you are from. As you are coming in today, a couple of administrative items. One, you're coming in muted. If we do have time for live Q&A, we will ask that you raise your hand at the end of the session. All other questions can be added to the chat, and we will voice them or answer them as best we can as we go along. And with that, I will just let you know a little bit more about Martechify. We are a community of professionals and experts in marketing and various different industries who are wanting to learn a little bit more about Martech. So some of us are in varying degrees, and we are all here to learn from each other. Each session will give you ideas and best practices on how you can use Martech to further your marketing efforts. Martech, delivering the next level content marketing, was broadcasted in October, and you can go to martechify.com to go back and watch that one. Today's focus will be Martech stack evolution and trends. And with that, I would like to introduce our host, Rich Herbst, a managing partner of the founding sponsor, Ascend Marketing.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to Martechify. We're glad you're here. I see our audience is still building, so welcome, everybody. Like as Laura said, today's topic is Martech stack evolution, latest trends. We have a fabulous expert panel lined up, about to start. And for Martechify, you'll see this as a continuing theme over the coming months. I'd like to introduce our experts. Welcome, Sujoy. Sujoy, we've known for some years. Sujoy Chandra leads data and Martech for SiriusXM, the connected vehicles part of SiriusXM. He goes especially deep in data thinking, architecture, and kind of connecting all these dots. Becky Scarborough, recently vice president at Demandbase, a noted expert in account-based marketing and optimizing next best experience for accounts. So she's going to be speaking deeply on that subject today. So looking forward to that. And also welcome Nitin. Nitin Ahuja is Director of Marketing Technology for Verizon, and specifically the business side of Verizon. He's a heavy-hitting architect, system architect, data platform architect, and putting the architecture, all the elements in place to optimize Martech stacks at scale. So I'm super excited to have you guys in this conversation, and let's dive in. I'd like to launch by asking a couple questions, and let's just have a conversation. As we're thinking about the major factors, the macro level factors driving Martech evolution. So let's kind of zoom out a second and talk about this. Just want to ask, what notable changes do you see in marketing itself and or in industry worlds surrounding marketing? What do you see there that's driving change? And then kind of in parallel, the emerging technologies are always driving change in Martech. What do you see on that front? Let's have a conversation here. Let me open up. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'll jump in. First and foremost, changes in marketing is privacy. I think that's something we're going to be keeping top of mind every day as we go forward. Hence cookieless future, right? But more importantly than that, it's also figuring out what to report on and how do we know if we're doing a good job. I think the days of the vendor Jedi mind trick of, oh no, you're going to report on ROI for this tool versus your overall programs, and are you reaching the right people? I think those days are coming to an end pretty fast.
Super good. Super good. So Joey, Nitin, what do you think? What do you see?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to maybe start with just thinking about what's not going to change. So the mission, I think, is going to remain the same. So you need to reach your audience at scale. You want to deliver personalized experiences that will drive engagement and conversions. You want to measure the journey, like Becky mentioned. You have to make sure that You have some degree of control over the attribution models and what's happening and where. You also have to manage costs and make sure that you're delivering an ROI. And then, again, as Becky mentioned, be compliant to privacy needs and regulations. So I think these things have been the theme for some time, and I think they will continue into 2023. And these changes, I think, will also drive what technologies emerge. And we'll talk a little bit more perhaps later, but things like Web3, generative AI, there's entirely new business models that will likely take shoot in 2023. And I think it's going to be an exciting time.
Awesome.
All right, I'll chime in here. So first of all, Rich, thank you for giving us this opportunity to come here and share some of our thoughts and stories. I really appreciate that. From my vantage point, I think when I look at trends and changes, I look at both people, process, and technology. So in the last decade, especially in the last 5 years, there's been a big shift from above the line to below the line focus on marketing. So if you look at skill sets, of savvy marketing, leaders, we're shifting from a lot of creative and content focus to AI, data science, and data-driven decision focus, and even the skill sets that we're hiring and onboarding. So that's one shift that I see. The other shift is around digital acceleration, especially for us in B2B, right? I mean, it was triggered by COVID, but then it kind of shot off, right? So, I mean, we look at some of the research that Gartner has, for example, says 80% of buyer and seller interactions will be digital within the B2B space by 2025. So a lot of that change, and also the need now movement, right? We have newer businesses which are very digital focused, very SaaS focused. They have a very different expectation. They have a consumer-like expectation of the experiences that we're giving them as B2B providers, if you will. From a technology standpoint, I think Sujay talked about Web 3.0. I agree, absolutely. It gives a brand new canvas for us to present content. Generative AI, in general, applied AI is, I think, where a big unlock is going to be. So when we talk about content and creating personalized content at scale, I mean, that's where things like ChatGPT are going to really lead the charge. I'm going to quote another statistic here, which is, by 2023 or 2025, actually, it's expected that 30% of outbound email content will be actually created by generative AI and automation. So, I mean, think about that. It's actually 2% right now. If you look at 2022, it was at 2%. We're going to go to 30%. So, I mean, that's, again, one big opportunity for us as technology leaders to embrace.
It'd be great if 100% of outbound email was generated by nothing. Let's just stop it altogether. We're all right here. Let's just make it a rule. Let's just vote. Okay, we're done.
I'm in favor. Yeah, I'd like to pick up on some of what you guys are saying. So I think I'm hearing two facets that are I would think of as pretty major. One has to do with data. Becky, you spoke about data privacy, but there's a whole lot of technology emerging that enables us to see a person either as a known person or predict who this person is or what they're about, and to see across channels and to see the person in context. Tell me if you guys disagree, but the ability to see into the data and either know or predict who we're talking to is massive. A second thing I think I'm sensing in here, that Nitin, you were speaking on this to Joy as well, the ability to decision, especially including AI, so that we seeing those insights from the data, we can process up and deliver tactics and messages and offers that are spot on for that person in context. Does that trigger any thoughts? What do you guys think?
Here's the biggest surprise that I haven't heard yet, and it's nobody's used the F word. I heard measure the journey. To me, that's massive. That's a huge. The day is finally here.
Yes.
The majority of people are thinking differently, and that's great.
I agree.
Yeah, so
also helpful to just take a step back, and the headlines are definitely not very rosy at this moment. So we are facing an uncertain economic environment. Will we have a recession? Will we have a soft landing? So I think if you're a CMO, you're looking at your Martech spend and you're seeing that it's probably higher than what you spend on people. So if that's what your P&L looks like, you want to make sure that your spend on Martech is being utilized. But I think, Nathan, you quoted a Gartner survey, so I'll quote one as well. Gartner survey said that utilization of Martech is actually lower in 2022, or it was lower in 2022 than 2021. And I think they put it at about 42%. So if you're a CMO, you're thinking that I'm not sure where the economy is headed. I'm spending a lot of money on Martech. It doesn't look like I'm utilizing all of that spend. So I think one theme that might emerge as this year unfolds is that marketing organizations will look to simplify that tech stack. I know everyone's trying to do that at some point in time, but simplification of their tech stack and focusing on those specific use cases that drive the business might be something else that happens during the course of this year. So I think it'd be interesting to see how the year unfolds and what directions organizations take. But it's going to be interesting no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, my God, that's my pet peeve, like the whole challenge of Martech rationalization. I mean, we live in a world where we talked about this, previously, like every large company has 80, 90, 100 plus vendors in Martech. And when we're trying to solve the challenge of bringing the data together, it's like 10x the cost from an integration standpoint. So consolidation and rationalization of Martech is a win-win, both from a P&L standpoint, but also towards that mission of a data-driven enterprise, right? How do we get to that faster at a lower cost? The other point I want to make, Rich, is I'm a passionate believer in data-driven decisions for our sales team, right? Because the data is pointless if we cannot activate that, if we cannot give those very contextual decisions at the right moments along the journey. And I'll talk a little bit about that in my deep dive. But I absolutely agree. I think data sitting there is useless. So we have to activate this data across experiences. That's where decisioning is a critical part of an architecture to kind of drive that last mile, end user value, unlock that end user value.
Totally agreeing that, and not just raw data, insights, actionable insights, and actionable insights matched to the decisioning technologies. And let me stir the pot, guys, and put two more questions up on the screen. There's a human dimension to all this, and maybe other factors as well. So, within Martech, what other factors do you see? And then, kind of organizationally, putting a human lens on it, which of these matter the most? Let's just kind of stir that pot and get you guys' thoughts.
Well, we just talked about it. So economic factors being one thing, but the result of those is, it's a lot cheaper to keep customers than acquire them. So, land and expand, land and expand, land and expand. But now I'm seeing a whole lot of expand, and a lot less on the land side of the house. So customer marketing, customer success, customer enablement, journey continuation from a marketing perspective. And it's highlighting a big gap, I think, in the Martech's ability to actually act on that data. It's highlighting a big problem with connecting customer insights with marketing motions. And there's some key players in the space right now actively trying to address that. But it's up to all of us to make sure that what they're creating is meeting our challenges, not just the last thing somebody said they wanted in a release.
Perfect. To join Nitin, other thoughts?
Yeah, so my thought on this, again, there is technology that is affecting an organization, and organizational, I would say, intricacies, what I would say is that impact how well we can use technology, right? So I think, with all this technology, right, I think we have to really think about how do we bring it into our process and our workforce. So, we sometimes have a rush to say, hey, let's deploy this tool, this new stuff very quickly, without a strong emphasis on field enablement, training, upskilling, right? It's a radical shift for all stakeholders in the organization. I think that's one area where we have an opportunity. When we also talked about like processes, sometimes The slowdown or the unlock is how do you improve your process, not so much, putting a new piece of technology in place. I talked about, I think of how quickly can we react in terms of pricing, in terms of promos, what are the approval processes we have in our organizations that actually are they lean and fast enough? So we talk about marketing at the speed of the customer. That's what we want to do, right, in a digital world. But how do we have the underlying functional areas kind of tied together? So there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of improved workflow, leveraging some tools and technology. But that has to be front and center around any technology transformation project rather than just building stuff out.
Agreed. I think that connects to what you were sharing a few minutes earlier, Nitin, in that the human organization needs to be able to adopt and absorb the tools and the stack. If the stack gets overdone, too many moving parts, too many collisions, moving too fast, it leads to poor usage. We see this in our work. So how do you make sure that you have an optimized stack from a stack perspective, but also that matches the human organization that needs to use it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a couple of considerations. I know we've talked about AI and the people side, and I'll dwell on that later on in my section. But the first thing that comes to mind when we think about generative AI and all of these newfangled technologies is the legal exposure. So many of these platforms are currently under some legal action for copyright infringement, for example. So I think that's one area that it might be prudent to investigate. And if you think of your marketing flow from when you start your campaign brief, content creation, and all the way through attribution, of course, I think we'll see a lot more technology that weaves its way through. And all of this is entirely data-driven. And just like Becky mentioned the F word, there's also the C word, which is cybersecurity. And I think that's another area where you only hear about it when something bad happens, but it's really important to make sure that as your marketing team gets more and more data-driven, how do you make sure that you are keeping yourself and your organization secure? So just another thought.
Indeed. Well, good. I'd like to actually skip ahead at this point. Let's get into the sharing. So I think Sujoy, you're leading us off. Would you like to, and participants, for the next few minutes, we're going to give each of our experts a chance to share out of their work and out of their experience, and they'll each be taking 7 or 8 minutes to kind of lay out a use case or a challenge. And as we go, if you have questions, please pop them into the chat, and we'll pick those up and speak to those in the live conversation as well. So, Joy, would you like to jump in?
Certainly. All right. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. So I chose to talk about paid media, mostly because if you have a marketing plan, if you have any campaign plans for this year, you probably have paid media. It's an integral part of any marketing plan. And because of that reason, it's also a very large industry. It's a very large spend that happens every year. So I put the number out there, 200 billion. It's probably not accurate, but the point is that it's a large number. And when you have 200 billion of spend, there's opportunities to improve and optimize that. So that's what I chose for this topic today. And of course, it's entirely driven by technology, ad tech, and it's a very, very impressive piece of technology to think about the time when you load a web page to how an ad is, an inventory is made available, it's bid on, it's auctioned off, it's activated on. It's quite incredible how that all works. So what are some of the key projections that I think we'll see unfold in 2023? I think we'll see increased share of digital. We'll see programmatic and connected TV be a part of that expansion. I think everyone's familiar with digital. Programmatic essentially is if you're a publisher, you want to sell an impression. If you're an advertiser, you want to buy that impression, and you can do this on any screen. So think about the screens that you experience today. So your mobile phone, your desktop, your television, out of home, billboard, all of that can be accessed through programmatic. It's pretty incredible. I think you will see that expand, and CTV is your paid media that's placed on any streaming device. So Roku, Apple TV, smart TVs, gaming consoles. Some people, use OTT on top of that. So different definitions might apply, but I would expect that programmatic and CTV will see an increased share in 2023. I talked about open internet and the ad-supported open internet. So we know our walled gardens. I think we will see other publishers that are ad-supported emerge. It's going to make attribution a lot more interesting, but that's something with the advent of universal IDs that I think we'll see a lot more activity in ad-supported open internet. And finally, I think we'll see consolidation of ad tech platforms. There are a bunch on the publisher side, on the advertiser side. I think you'll see some consolidation there. It's quite likely that that happens. So what do you do what does this mean if you're an advertiser? So there's a number of things that might be of interest. I'll talk to just a few. The first one is expansion of AI and machine learning in ad campaigns. I think we've all experienced it to some degree. I'll share some examples that might be useful to you. And I'll talk about the cookieless world, and I'll talk about tracking and first-party data. So hopefully this session is of value. So with that, we can move to the next slide. So I want to start off with an example from the world of Meta, and this is Advantage Plus. That's the name that they've given for their automation suite. And these are the automated campaigns. If you're automating a campaign, they call it Advantage Plus. So why is this interesting? I thought it was interesting because we know that I think it was mentioned earlier, the creative aspect is going to be important. So what this platform does, and some of you have already used it, it used to be called dynamic experiences. So Meta can tweak an image, crop an image, adjust filters, build the ad so that it appeals to an individual. So being able to adjust brightness, contrast filters, building the ad so that it drives conversions, I think was pretty neat. They reported 3% lower CPA. Your mileage may vary, but I think the fact that we are now changing the creative, placement, headlines, we already see this with dynamic search ads, but to see it on the creative level was something interesting. If you haven't used it, it might be worth taking a look at. So that was the first example I wanted to share of using AI and machine learning to optimize campaigns. The second example on the next slide is from the world of Google. So this is about one campaign to access them all. So the Performance Max, again, you may have heard of it. It's been out for about a year and a half now. So it's been tried and tested, and it's been getting good results. So to complement your search campaigns, you have now the ability to introduce a Performance Max campaign that will run across multiple channels. You can see the list there: YouTube, display, search, discover. All of these 6 channels can be accessed through one campaign. You need to have specific goals, and these are online sales as an example. So more bottom of the funnel goals. But the interesting thing here from a technology point of view is that Google will select the best mix of your ad elements. So you provide headlines, assets, images, and Google will throw it all together in a magic blender and then figure out the right channel. So it takes your ad elements, figures out the right channel. If you provide some sort of bidding guidance, you want it to focus on CPA, cost per acquisition, or ROAS. It'll optimize accordingly. It'll pick a landing page from your site based on consumer intent, create a video from your images. I think it's pretty neat. And again, folks have been seeing a lot of positive lift from using Performance Max. So a great example of how machine learning and AI are becoming more commonplace. And I think you'll see this even more. I think it's helpful to maybe just think about the implications of this. I think we talked earlier about the people side. I think Nathan brought up that topic. So if you think about maybe 5 years ago, you needed to have a rock star performance marketing team. They would do manual optimizations, they would adjust bids, look at targeting, exclusions, figure out the right audiences, placements. All of that is now going to be automated. It is already being automated. So what does this mean? I think the positive side is that it's going to level the playing field. So rather than have this rock star team that was really skilled at performance marketing at a campaign level, you now have the ability to use a platform that's going to level the playing field for you. So everyone gets access to this. Again, it's to some degree. I don't think the playing field is fully level. If you're a large advertiser, you definitely have some advantages. The flip side of this is that the platforms are becoming a black box. So none of the platforms that we've talked about so far will tell you why something worked or why they did not work. They'll give you a high-level indicator of, this was successful, it was mildly successful, something along those lines. But the explainable part of AI is not available, at least yet. So if you're an advertiser and you're trying to figure out which creative worked, which channel worked, it's going to be difficult for you to get to that answer. So again, the flip side of this is that platforms are going to become a black box, and you'll just be, further removed from what actually works and why. I think you will see that tools get deprecated, renamed, adjusted very quickly. As I mentioned, the Meta Creative was called Dynamic Experiences. It's called Advantage Plus Creative. So you'll see these sort of tweaks. And as a brand team, as a marketing team, you'll have to stay on top of these changes, on top of what's going on as it is with privacy and things like that. The other implication, I think, for organizations is your skill set. So are marketers going to look more like data engineers? I think it's something to think about as you plan your organizations over the next few years. I think it's going to have implications on what a marketing team does and what skills do they have. I think it's helpful, no matter where you are, to make sure you understand the consumer story and how your organization generates value, because I think you'll see these platforms and these tools do more and more. And with those things, you need to make sure that your teams are data savvy. There was a time when you could export from a platform into a spreadsheet, and you did your analysis there. Right now, the data is so vast, that's going to change. So, but anyway, I thought that was good, something good to think about from an implications to the organization point of view. But we can move on to the next slide. All right. So really quickly, I want to touch on a few things. As you all know, Google is killing the third-party cookies sometime next year, maybe not. We'll see. But 65% of internet users are on Chrome, so it's a big deal. However, if your consumer base includes Apple users and Firefox users, they've stopped supporting third-party cookies, a long time ago. So what are you going to do about that audience? It's a question that advertisers need to find a solution to. Now I'm going to propose that in this short discussion here today, but you have about 130 days to move to GA4. GA4, again, is the new Universal Analytics. It's based on an event-based architecture. You're going to have web and app reporting under one platform. So a lot of interesting changes to how Google is thinking about moving away from cookies from a reporting point of view. You will see that UA and GA4 reports will not match. If you're an analytics nerd, you know that UA and Universal Analytics only counts one conversion per session, and that's going to change. I'm really happy about that with GA4. So there will be some changes in reporting, but the clock is ticking. You should have already moved to GA4 by now. So you start collecting that historical data. When you're moving to GA4, consider enabling Google Signals. This will help you connect data across Google accounts and help you with your cross-device reporting and remarketing. I'm going to move a bit quickly. I know you have Becky and Nitin have great presentations lined up for you. So we can move to the next slide. What I want to do here is really quickly talk about what a cookieless world looks like and how you might leverage first-party data. I have two examples really quickly to share. The first one is from the Google side of the house. So Google has this thing called enhanced conversions. When a user converts, there's a tag that'll fire, convert your first-party data and send it after hashing it to Google. Google will then match that with their hash data, and then you will be able to measure if or not a conversion happened. That's one way these platforms are tackling this cookieless world. The second one is more interesting. Meta is thinking about it a little bit differently. There's a server-side tracking. So the conversion API is something that your server will send to Meta/Facebook directly. So you get to choose what sort of website events, app events, offline conversions you want to send to Meta, and they will use that to optimize your ad targeting and decrease your CP, and good things will happen. All right, so that was my my section here. Hopefully this was useful, but I look forward to hearing any comments and feedback and questions, and I think I'm looking forward to Becky and Nitin's presentation.
Super good. And as I mentioned before, everybody, if you have questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. We'll pick up questions after the three experts have shared each of their stories. Great insights, Sujoy. Two things jump out at me. First thought is, wow, look at all this power that's becoming available to enhance the marketing. The second one is, wow, the platforms are getting a lot of that power. It's almost scary. The amount of control, and it's like a power shift toward the platform providers, to my eye. Let's, for the sake of time, let's shift to Becky. And like I said, Becky's an expert in ABM, ABX, formerly Demandbase. Yeah, take it away, Becky.
All right. I don't know what Laura's over/under was on me making some sort of a joke here, but every time I heard Advantage Plus, I kept thinking of like a Medicare commercial. So here on out, I will be referring to that as Metacare, and that's its name going forward.
All right.
So with that, the buying group. Here's the thing, guys. I talked about it a little bit a minute ago. Land and expand, account-based, account-based. We're all living it, we're hearing it, but our standard answer is usually, no, I can't tell you which of the lead activity was for your product, Bob, versus your product, Sue, versus products they already own, blah, blah, blah. And so we're sitting in this world today where we have companies gobbling more companies, so multiple business units, think about any enterprise on the planet, selling to, believe it or not, the enterprise, right? Everybody wants to target the enterprise, where you have multiple business units and multiple possible buyers, and one marketing team, and one marketing stack. How do you do this, and how do you measure it? Well, frankly, with today's tech, we haven't been able to. I mean, we just haven't. So before we go to another vendor to add on top of the dozens and dozens and dozens that we already have, it's on us to go to the vendors we're working with today and really be clear about what we need from them. And before we do any of that, let's define the word customer. Just, for giggles. Because before we can say what's a group, we need to know what are they a group of. And I think what you're going to start to see, you've seen Forrester start to leak it a little bit, Gartner's getting into it as well, which is inevitably going to lead more and more vendors to be doing this, is shifting from account-based to buying group-based. What will that mean for us? And I use the example of General Motors because I think it's kind of a template for almost any enterprise out there. But when we say that GM is a customer, well, what are we talking about? Jump forward a slide and we'll show that. One more. And boom. So let's say you're Salesforce. And if you haven't heard of Salesforce, welcome to Earth. And you have all these products that you're trying to sell. And you have sold to GM. GM is a customer. They're on your logo slide. You've sold CRM to GM North America. You've sold the Marketing Cloud to international. Where are your prospects? Where are your customers? And how are you managing an account-based journey for everybody who has a gm.com domain name? It's insane. And it's something that CMOs, CEOs, the board of directors, sales, all of your sales organizations, they have no patience for. They're not going to wait around for you to figure out how to go to market like this. So this is where we're seeing a big shift, especially in Martech vendors, your demand gen platforms, your account-based platforms, and if we're lucky, our marketing automation platforms. But to be honest, and this is my personal and professional opinion, I think marketing automation vendors are going to be the last men standing when it comes to who really is going to rule this world. The truth of the matter is what we're going to see are the vendors that we've had the best partnerships with along the way, the ones that might have done top of the funnel, or maybe they did middle of the funnel, or some API-based kind of microservices approach, really being the ones that can start to parse this data out based on buying groups. So is my buying group made up of people that are looking at security solutions or DevOps solutions? Are they my current customers for mainframe, going back to my CA days, if that's not obvious? You know, how do we get that? How do I say you've had this many leads? This is what's happened to them. You have this much activity, or I'm targeting these people within these accounts. Just a minute ago, we were looking at Medicare, for instance, and all of the different ways that we can get ads out to people. AI is going to be a big part of this, but we have to be able to prove it's working. So when we say we want to target people within GM America who are interested in a services component to their entire customer automation, spiel, we can't just target everybody that works at GM and hope that they're in the service department. We have to be able to create a connection between people who care and people who might care and people who can become our customers, and tie all of that together with the right content. So, skipping forward, the last piece of the puzzle, and this is where everybody gets stuck. I have had conversations with the biggest players in the market, and I've had conversations with new players in the market, and this is where every one of those conversations comes to a screeching halt. Buying committees are not unique. They never will be, they never have been. Even within one company where you're selling CRM, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, you're going to have overlap that carries between those. So when Susie CIO here with the little smirk happens to download some content, related to your company, who's getting that lead? Is it sales, service, or marketing? What if right after that, she then downloads some stuff around the Marketing Cloud? And it happens to have stuff about CRM. Where do you count that lead? This is where it's become increasingly obvious that there isn't going to be a magic wand, a magic tool, another thing we stack on. But it's really going to be about a thoughtful approach to how we go to market, how our teams go to market, and how we start connecting our own mess that we've made. So web tagging, the CDP, CRM data, the program data. I think we've made it far and wide longer than we ever expected to, with a campaign naming convention that somebody came up with, and bless them for trying, but those days are gone. It's now down to tags. It's going to be down to content. It's digital asset management. And it's making sure that none of that is executed outside of a framework that's managed centrally. If we try to manage all of this within silos, we're just don't do it. That's all I'm saying. Just don't do it. So then next one up, last one, what are we going to be thinking about? How should we be thinking about this? And when I say how should we be thinking about this, I mean vendors listen to you. Every tech company out there listens to their customers. Unfortunately, sometimes they listen to everything that's said. So if somebody from a gigantic company comes in and says, I really need you to make sure that all of this technology works so that I can email these 3 people every single day at noon, they will prioritize emailing at noon over all the other things because it was from a gigantic company that was asking. So you need to speak up. I don't care if you work for Google, or I don't care if you work for Medicare, or I don't care if you work for Bob's Pizza Shop down the street. Talk to your business partners, talk to your tech partners, and explain to them what's standing in the way of you doing a great job. They need to be thinking outside of their own tool, and they need to be thinking about connection with things beyond just web data. Who visited, right? They need to be thinking about more than just, do I connect to Salesforce? They need to be thinking about measuring the customer journey. With that, I've made up all the time that we ran over a minute ago.
Super good. Thank you, Becky. Tough challenge. Yeah, and especially, I think your example is great. When you have General Motors, and there's literally thousands of people you can talk about that work for General Motors, and you're trying to do a marketing or a sales efforts, which ones of those matter? which of those don't? And maybe you can start to harness that, but then when you start looking at behavioral signals, responses, who the people that are responding, do I care about them or do I not? Are they relating to what I'm selling, or is that what somebody else is selling? Yeah, huge tangle. It all has to do with contextualizing those individuals and those companies inside of group-based journeys. So fabulous. Ben, let's bridge to you. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Rich. So I'll try to be quick so that we do have some time for Q&A. So, folks, what I wanted to cover, if you can, yeah, okay. What I wanted to really cover is our journey as a B2B Martech group with real-time decisioning, and I think what I would say we broke the mold in terms of real-time decisioning, because many folks kept telling us when I came into this job that, hey, why are you building a decision engine? Isn't that what only B2C marketing does? And we actually stepped up to the challenge and built something that is B2B grade. So I'm very proud to share some of those best practices with you guys. So I'll spend some time on that, and I'll also give you some insights on what are the new things we're looking at, what is the next frontier. So Horizon Business, as Rich mentioned, we are the B2B unit of Horizon with $31 billion revenue. We have 22,000 worldwide employees. We have networks that we operate in 150 countries. So our customers range from small business, SOHO, to Fortune 500 companies, to federal, state, and local. So you can imagine the breadth of our customers. We sell a combination of wireless, wireline services, and also SaaS products. So when you look at this ecosystem, right? We have a very complex set of products, a very complex sales journeys as well, and it is not your typical next best action use case, right? But we, as I said, stepped up to this challenge, and we built a specific B2B grade decision engine. Just to give you a sense of the scale at which we operate our decisioning engine, our decisioning engine powers 4.6 million interactions every month. We ingest more than 400 different dynamically scored models at every point of interaction, and we have 14,000 active frontline sales users that actually use our tool today. This number is going to grow by the end of the year. So there's a lot of scale that we built together, and we've done some very specific fine-tuning around B2B sales motions. I also want to call out that based on this, we have industry-leading, adoption of our decisioning engine tools, which is a 41% accept rate. So let's go to the next slide. I want to highlight how we did this, right? What were the differentiators for us when we looked at our implementation? So 3 things I want to highlight. The first is what I call decisioning as a service. So when you look at a B2B sales journey, it's not linear. It has many touch points, touches many channels, many sales reps in some cases as well, right? So what we realized is that we can deploy decisioning to power a lot of those interesting, unique interactions using the same Pega platform, right? And I think we also created a dynamic proposition framework that can actually adapt to these decisions using the same Pega platform at the core. So I'll give you an example. So think about a sales rep talking to a business about wireless connectivity or broadband solutions. Our decision engine provides insights on very basic questions like what are the best products, broadband connectivity options, feed options, pricing, and promos. This is where most decisioning engines actually run as well. So it's pretty commonplace to have that kind of an insight. But we go one step beyond. We not only look at that, we look at what are the solutions we can sell to that account across the portfolio of our services. Okay. We also look at what is the next best moment to re-engage this buyer to drive a sale. And in that next best moment, what is the content, the next best content that we can actually present or share with the customer that will drive conversion? And that could be a personalized quote that learns from their behavior or a case study. So this is a very different mindset than real-time selling in a certain system of engagement. So based on this, what we've been able to do is we've been able to shift our sales teams from what I call experience-based selling, with their experience and knowledge individual knowledge, I would say, to AI-powered guided selling, where we can standardize our sales process and really drive scale. So based on this methodology, we've been able to deliver strong results back to our business, both in terms of incremental revenue, as well as sales process industrialization is what we call it. I'll give you some examples. So in our we have been able to improve our attach rate around our value add services products by about 10x. Even if you look at the kind of comparison between a guided selling versus non-guided selling interaction, we see significant improvement in our win rate. So it's a win-win. It also helps us, as you know, if there's a lot of churn in sales, so this also is helping us, this guided selling methodology is helping us train and onboard new reps faster and the time to market to get them, up and running as well. That's one big thing I wanted to share with you. The second is what we call native experiences. So we believe that for any decisioning implementation to be successful, it has to deeply, seamlessly integrate with the current set of tools that our customers and the front lines are using. So we have a design philosophy, which we call designed by the frontline, built for the frontline. What does that mean? So from the day one, all the way from the design of our tool to concept to training, we maintain strong partnership with our field, a strong partnership with our end users with a very emphasized focus on field enablement and training. We also make sure that any decisioning capability we're adding to their tool is driving simplicity, consistency, and efficiency in their process. So with this kind of co-ownership of the design and a strong emphasis on the voice of the employee, we're able to get much faster adoption of our tools, quickly launching them in the field, and higher acceptance rate. The more they accept, our decisions in the data-driven decisions, the more value we can give to them and our programs in terms of benefit. Another impact of this philosophy is handling time reduction. So we've been able to see with higher adoption, 10 to 20% reduction in handling time for calls in our contact centers, and also some of our store visits. Because the process is simplified, it's standardized, new reps can do it with the same effectiveness as experienced reps. So that's really another big unlock for us, which is what we call native experiences. The third thing I want to talk about is real-time marketing and sales insights. So we, as like most companies, are investing heavily in a customer data platform. And with a customer data platform, we're now able to get a lot of real-time insights, right? But what we've also done is we've connected those real-time insights to our real-time decisioning engine to create a real-time marketing engine that is actually, I think, new to the B2B ecosystem. So what does it do for us? With this capability, with this engine on the digital side, with our digital customers, we can retarget and remarket to them much faster, near real-time at scale. We can adapt our offers based on their behavior and also deploy progressive offers, which can actually continuously learn over time. And this is not just limited to digital channels, this is across our different channels of experience that we have. The same engine is giving us new superpower, what I would say, to our sales reps, which is real-time sales intelligence, which they didn't have before. So whether it be a recent store visit, a recent call, or a recent interaction across any of the channels that their accounts are interacting, now they can react much faster using personalized outreaches to defend and grow those accounts. So this real-time sales intelligence is instrumental in creating a new way for them to connect back to their customers and meet them where they want to be met in terms of channel and in terms of speed. Again, this has helped us improve our CRM take rates in some of our large volume programs because of this real-time effectiveness. So these are three things that I wanted to highlight in terms of what has helped us achieve this goal of building a B2B great decision engine. Can we go to the next slide? So what is our next frontier? How do we think of elevating our decisioning practice? The first thing I want to talk about is what we call live decisioning. So now there's been, this year and the last few years, there's been significant advancement in real-time speech technology. So now we can harness live intent of our customers on the phone or even within digital sessions much more scalably and effectively. So what we want to do now is use real-time speech and live intent to optimize our next best action and next best offer, rather than rely heavily or primarily on offline segmentation, which is largely based on predictive models that are scored, last day, last 30 days, last week. This is a big shift, and it's really enabled and encouraged by the advancements in real-time technology. The second thing is a journey versus interaction perspective. If you look at most decisioning engines, they have unitary outcomes. So how can I use next best action to convert a sale? How can I use next best action to convert a save or drive a save, right? What we're starting to look at is the compound effect of all these recommendations across a customer lifecycle or across a customer journey, and how we can use that cumulative effect to drive broader outcomes like customer health, like NPS, like ARPU. This is a very different perspective than just in the moment, what I would say, decisioning. And most decisioning engines are not even designed this way. So we have to start looking about a persistent architecture and a persistent decisioning platform. The third thing I would say is what we call hybrid architecture. So in our business, there are some accounts that have 10,000, 20,000 phone lines, right? And most decisioning engines cannot scale at that level. So think about a customer going on a website and trying to see what are the upgrade offers for their account. The decision engine then has to process all the thousands of lines against every eligible offer that is out there, look at usage, look at account eligibility. The response time does not catch up. And this is a B2B specific problem. And response time is very important for those real-time interactions, whether it's a store visit or a call center call or a digital interaction. What we're thinking about is creating a hybrid architecture where there's an offline instance of our decision engine that can focus on proactively creating next best action at scale and staging that data for most large accounts, as well as working in tandem with an online instance of our decision engine that's really working with more real-time cases and context, and they can work in tandem to give us that right balance between scale and response time. So this is another unique perspective that I think we want to embrace for B2B so that we can create the perfect experience for our frontline sales teams and our customers. So, I mean, these are again some examples. I just want to close by saying that we call our teams marketing science, and data-driven decisioning is really at the core of what we do. So we are on a quest to lead the industry in B2B decisioning. And I hope, we found some of our thoughts today useful. Thank you.
Super great. Thank you, Nitin, and thank you, team. Let me share, so I'm trying in my own mind to connect some dots across what we've heard this morning. Let me share what I think I'm sensing, and then would love to hear you guys' thoughts and builds and discussion around that. So from Sujoy, we heard the work involved and the tools involved in connecting data across channels. So that I can see a customer or a prospect across channels, across devices, and across platforms. So being able to connect the data and then use, in his example, AI to activate optimized touch points and messages is a big deal. I think from Becky, we heard it's also very data related, in my opinion. Becky, let's hear your thoughts, but it's not just an individual responding to a tactic, nor is it a corporation, a collective set of actions across a corporation. We need to see individuals in the context of the team that they're part of, the business decisioning that they're doing, the buyer group, as Becky shared. So it's all about data context, and so that one can optimize a journey that flows from there. And then what I think I've heard, what I'm taking away from your comments, Nitin, are once you have the data well harnessed and kind of staged, the real-time decisioning is what then makes some magic happen. We can optimize an offer, we can optimize an experience, we can optimize a piece of content for that person based on some very powerful data insights. So that's how I'm seeing. What are you guys' thoughts and reactions?
I think you're right on, and something I barely brushed up against earlier, but there could be a whole other one of these on that, is what's the evolution of the marketing and sales structures? Constantly we're fighting against the fact that we have 8 different sales teams out there all trying to sell to one company and one group, and everybody wants to talk to somebody at that group at the same time because they have quotas to hit. We shoot ourselves in the foot a lot with this kind of old school thinking in terms of org charts. So at some point, we have to look around and go, maybe it's not us, maybe it's not the tech, maybe it's just the fact that we're still sitting in the same chair we sat in 15 years ago.
I think, so Becky, spot on, right? The relationship between marketing and sales the strengthening of that in context of achieving, common goals, both in terms of, sales leveraging marketing insights and tools and trusting them and providing feedback. And also, the end-to-end attribution and the end-to-end performance measurement, because it cannot be marketing is performing well and sales is performing well. They're all like, hand in glove. So the whole emphasis on the partnership for, as I said, tools, collaboration, but also measurement, shared success is what I would call it. Right? It's all about shared success. And I think end-to-end attribution and end-to-end performance management is very important when you have large sales and large marketing organizations working together.
Absolutely. That also is the enabler of a closed loop, continuous learning process. A huge deal.
I think it's important to also highlight the organization implications, as I touched on. So we've heard of the saying that every company is a software company. So if you think of your marketing team, any organization that uses machine learning today has this thing called ML ops. For IT organization, you use something called DevOps. So from a marketing perspective, I think you'll see a lot of bleeding over from these sort of niche teams into a marketing workflow. And the implications on the organization and the makeup of the organization and the skill sets and the talent, I think those are quite deep implications that CMOs and the C-suite have to take into account. So just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, great discussion.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing, guys. There's also a shift from, as I was saying, focusing on outcomes as a CMO, like driving sales or driving saves or loyalty and retention and growth to CX. And there's an increased focus on that. So it's really, again, thinking beyond just immediate outcomes. How do we look at the journey and focus on CX and customer health holistically? That's a very different goal than these micro goals, if you will. And I think that's what the focus is going to shift, because that's the differentiation in customer experience that will make or break brands, I would say.
Yeah, I think your notion of the multiple optimizations, so shooting for that multiple optima, I think is a really insightful comment. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Nitin.
Super good. Well, we're a little short on time, team. Let's we'll leave the Q&A till the very end. Anybody who'd like to stay on past the hour is welcome to stay on, and we'll open up some microphones and talk. Can we do just a couple wrap-up slides here? Can we roll ahead? So let's skip over. We'll come to Q&A in a second. I want to invite everybody to come to the Martechify.com website. Among other things, the recording of this event will be there, as well as a synopsis. Give us a few days, but give the team a few days. There's a depth of resource there, including past events. So I invite everybody to come. And also, we'll be collecting feedback. Would love to hear any feedback you may have. We do have some upcoming plans ahead. Let me share a couple. So we had drafted in our next forum, like we had today, as a part 2 on Martech stacks, fitting the pieces together. More to come. I would encourage anybody, if you have thoughts around upcoming topics, please post them right now in the chat. We would like to also tee up some local events. For example, happy hours or lunch get-togethers for localized groups. So stay tuned. Those are being worked on. And then Martechify also does boot camps, or I'm sorry, deep dives. Deep dive session, we drafted in a boot camp, meaning kind of an introductory deep dive session. So in September, a deep dive runs deeper. It's a smaller group and can be a broader time frame than just an hour, just to give a sense. I think I sensed a couple possible topics out of our conversation today, guys. The customer journey is a huge topic, and I heard several comments related to that. A deeper dive, maybe a deep dive session around AI and machine learning, decisioning technology. See that happening. I could see a deep dive around ABM and ABX. So those are some things that I just sensed out of the conversation today. Let's roll forward one more slide. That's another thank you, and we can open up if anybody would like to stay on for some Q&A. Please pop any questions in the chat, and we can also start to open up microphones so we can talk a bit.
I did have a
Before
question.
Before we do that, let me just say, before that, thank you to the experts. Really, really appreciate the powerful insights today. Fabulous conversation. I learned a ton. So much, much, much appreciated. And I know what an effort it takes to clear time and energy to do something like this. So let's open up for questions from the audience.
Yes, we had a question come in from Bruce. He wants to know, as automation proceeds, what staff skills become high value? And I responded, and Becky did a little bit of discussion in there, but thought I'd open it up for the panel.
I'll just share with the class. I mean, I do believe that those with an identity management, either acumen or background, are really going to be the ones that can lead as we move forward. Because, think about it. You've got one person sitting in, how did we say, 90 different systems out there in the tech stack. You really need to understand that they're more than an email address. This thing is an identity. My home IP is Wi-Fi is an identity, so many elements to that we can be using beyond just somebody's email address to figure out whether or not, they downloaded content, whether or not they're in my group, whether or not they attended an event. So I think those people are really going to be able to kind of set their own price, because there's just not enough of them in the world for where we need to go.
I'll add like three different skills that I think are emerging, and this is the point around below the line, right? The evolution of below the line marketing. One is what we call marketechs, marketing, because again, going back to proliferation of systems, data, we need to have people who can connect these systems together, drive those decisions, guide the IT organization, guide the vendors. So I think it's more like applying architecture. The second is, I would say, business transformation, business transformation technologists. Maybe I can, simplify this. But the idea is folks who are sitting between business and technology can drive transformation, right? Who can articulate value, who can drive business case development. Very important, because for Martech, for any large technology investment, we have to build a business case. We cannot go to finance and say, hey, give us $100 million. And we'll put it as an OpEx line item and move on. No. So there's capital investment involved, and you have to have those folks who are strong in understanding technology and business. And the third is like table stakes, right? Which is your data scientists, your data engineers, and also vertically in these now, because we have so many platforms, Marketo experts, Marketo certified experts. There's going to be, as we converge to standardized platforms around big vendors, the certification skills are going to be key, especially when they're new. So that's another area I think where we're going to have, I would say, demand from a workforce standpoint.
I got a quick build on that. I see two patterns that flow from there. One, so many of the Martech tools are becoming more accessible and more easy to manage, which kind of pulls everybody in marketing into the tech in one level or another, in one dimension or another. So marketing technology is part of marketing. It'd be, I guess, my summary statement there. The second thing is, as those mainline tools become easier to access and use, it pulls behind them much, much deeper running, more advanced tools that demand the data engineers, the machine learning specialists, deep data scientists. So there is a whole raft of highly specialized skills, including architecture, I think, is just kind of system architecture type thinking, Nitin, as you pointed out. That is challenging stuff, and there's going to be just a ton more of that coming. Other questions?
Great. Sri Ganesh has been promoted to be able to speak. Sri, are you there? If not, I can tell you what his question was previously. He had a question about Web 3.0 and how that can shape marketing. Insights on that.
I can touch on that briefly. So I think it's still under evolution. I don't think people fully agree on what it actually means. Broadly speaking, you can think of a company like Nike that is creating digital products, ultimately to support their, real life products, but in many instances, it can become a meaningful, part of their business. So think of a gamified version, whether it's an NFT or some virtual product that creates a standalone business from them, separate from their athletic shoes, for example. And then there are companies like Starbucks that might think about a virtual engagement platform that helps engage your consumers outside, the coffee purchasing experience. So I think it's going to vary quite a bit depending on, what that company is and what their vision is. But typically, it's either a virtual product with some sort of real world counterpart. And then I think the final thing is distributed ownership with Web3. That's the whole idea of distributed tokens that anyone can own, really available. I think that's an area where you might see, some brands dip in. So together we can all own this really fancy NFT version of some famous painting, as an example. So that's how I would see it. I think it's still evolving, but that's what I've noticed so far.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Becky.
I was just thinking, it's, to me, I always think so much farther than, what people were talking about today, but that's just how I roll, so deal with it. But what I'm thinking is, how we watch a baseball game today, you've got the green screen sitting there behind the batter, and depending on where you live or what cable company you have or whatever, that ad can change. Now imagine, it's a world where you're watching the game virtually, but that advertising real estate can be targeted to you, not where you live, not what region you're in, not if you're Comcast or Cox or Spectrum or whatever, but you. That's what we're moving toward, is where you really truly can get a personalized experience if the marketers, us on this end, will take the time to deliver it. And the sky's the limit when it comes to what tech can do. It's just how much are we willing to invest in creating that experience so personalized that it feels like it's tailored to each individual that you're trying to reach. That's what 3.0 is going to start to give us. Yeah,
I agree with you guys. I think it's more AR, VR, and I would say more AR, because VR is still, I have my reservations on VR. But I think going back to examples, marketing wise, when we look at how we showcase our products, how we showcase the capabilities of those products. I mean, there is a lot of mainstream AR already in terms of device interactive models, like, virtual retail stores. I think that is something that is very, I would say out there, and most devices can support that, because it's not just creating content. You have to give simple ways for users to use that content, right? So AR is, I think, now every phone, every device. So that's one area. The other thing I would say is, for us, as marketing organizations targeting global enterprises, we invested a lot in virtual EBCs, right? Because we had this whole, everybody was impacted using COVID. So how do we showcase, again, broadly the capability of our companies using virtual, I would say, innovation centers, virtual executive, EBCs? And I think that's another area where we can look at that and basically, have some, I would say, real life experience. I think VR, again, going back to VR, is still further out in terms of adoption. And NFTs, yes, I think NFTs, again, just like blockchain, we heard a lot about blockchain for years, and now it's NFT. But we're still a little far away from broad mainstream use cases from that. So I think AR is the most ready, if you ask me, within Web 3.0, the realm of Web 3.0.
Good stuff. Well, thank you again, Nitin, Becky, and Sujoy. Fabulous conversation today. Thanks to all the participants for being here, asking good questions. And again, I invite everybody to come to the Martechify website, share your feedback, view the recording, and all the other goodies available in martechify.com. We'll go ahead and wrap then for today. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.